Morning, Rucker.
Morning, Polly.
What is episode 7?
7. Yes, yeah.
Episode 7.
Yeah.
My gosh, this is crazy.
Yeah.
We're
there.
I know we are. We start every episode with, are we having fun? Yes.
Yes.
The answer is yes. What do you want to talk about this morning?
So today is all about marketing and advertising. So just an overview, general background on just marketing.
Okay. Where do you want to start?
So I think the biggest thing with marketing for me is, there's so many different ways to market. Where do you market? How do you market? How much do you spend? My biggest one is just marketing in general. Do you know what marketing is? And are you thinking about it the same way? And if you're not the marketing manager, should you even be paying attention to marketing?
I believe that if you're not paying attention to marketing, you're in trouble. So I do believe that it's a combination. I believe that marketing managers are very, very important, but I also believe that the general managers that are on the ground every day in that store need to be tied at the hip with their marketing managers. The vehicles in which we market today are different than the vehicles we marketed through before. I mean, when I say before, I mean 2-3 years ago, where we marketed is completely different than it is today. And if you're not tied at the hip with your marketing manager, you probably don't know that.
Yeah. And so I'll touch on that, and then I want to derail for a second. The biggest thing for me is it seems like people are very disconnected with marketing. And it kind of makes me nervous, to be completely honest with you, because you can get an advertising agency and you can say, hey, this is what I want to do, and they'll do it for you. But there's marketing. We need to become better experts at it, whether you're a salesperson, a service advisor, a manager, a GSM, a GM, just because there's a lot of money tied to it. And when you're participating, it doesn't do as well as when you're perfecting it. And the advertising is everything, just so we're on the same page. It could be radio and TV and print, but it's social media. It's grassroots. It's some of the things that you're either not good at or you don't have any experience with it that you need to be doing as well. Do I sponsor the Little League team, or do I join, or do I sponsor a hole in a golf outing? And what are the impacts of that? And are we focused in the right areas, making sure that you're getting it? But
okay, not that I counted, but I think there were 39 topics you just brought up.
Close to it.
Okay. Yeah. Where do you want to start?
But the derail that I want to go to is, where did we market when you started in the car business?
Yeah. So I think there was big 3 when I started in the car business. Now, when I started in the car business was a little bit different than, not too far off, actually, from when you started. Yeah. From when you started, we had print, we had radio, and we had television, and that's where we were. The dealerships that were really big were on TV, not just the newspaper or dabble in radio. They were on the television. And the smaller dealerships were on the newspaper only, and there was somewhere in between. Yeah. I believe that's where it was. Yeah. There wasn't this thing called the internet and social media, and I'm not an expert on social media. I see your smile.
No.
I know there's Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all these things. None of that existed.
Yeah.
None of that.
Yeah.
But is that not where we get the most views today? And does it cost differently than TV and radio and newspaper? Man, we could talk about a lot of different topics.
Did the computer exist, though?
The computer existed.
Yeah. So because that's the most fascinating part.
We were past the typewriter.
Yeah, we were past the typewriter, right? We were on to cars, not horse and buggies.
Yes.
But that's how fast marketing changes, and why you have to stay up to date. And probably the biggest struggle that I had is, as I was coming in, like, newspaper was still big.
Huge.
And I've now had this argument twice now in my short career. It's only 18 years, but we've already gone through 2 major shifts in where you spend the bulk of your marketing. Because if you do a good marketing strategy, you spend a lot of money in a lot of different places, but you always have that bulk of your spend is going to be where you think you get the biggest contribution. And my GM loved the newspaper, and boy, did they love us. I mean,
I'm sure they did.
it was fascinating. Now, we were in a luxury brand, and again, our clientele, we're still reading the newspaper. So it didn't, it wasn't wasted money. But boy, did we own newspaper. And
Yes.
this was
Page was yours.
this was not
Yeah.
this was not the newspaper. This was the end of it. I mean, my newspaper advertising rep was still making a significant amount of money because they were still making a significant amount of sales. And I remember sitting in the meeting and I'm going, hey, when are we going to talk about the fact that nobody reads the newspaper?
Right.
Everybody reads the newspaper.
Nope.
Okay, we got to have this conversation now. Who read the newspaper this morning?
One hand. Right.
I mean, my parents, they were now down to a Sunday only subscription of the newspaper. And, back then they had the every other day, they had the every day, they had the week only, the weekend only, and the Sunday only. So, and I'm pretty sure they only had it because there were coupons, like they were big coupon people. So it was just one of those things where I'm like, man, I don't want to be the person to have this conversation,
It
but
pops their bubble. Right.
it's not there.
Because you're bringing it up, I'll say it too. In the office, in my manager's office at the time,
Yeah.
I was with the group I'm still with today. But
Yeah.
at that time, I was still with the same group, obviously.
Yeah.
In his office behind him,
Yeah.
he had the newspaper ad
Yeah.
for each of our competitors behind him.
Yeah.
Always. And when a new one came out, every single week, whatever their ad was, he'd take their old one down and put their new one up. And it was funny because you could go right along the back wall and go, okay, that dealership's doing $199, that dealership's doing $209, this dealership's doing, and they all had different money due at signing. That was it.
Yeah.
Right. But they were all right next to each other in the paper.
Yeah.
Right. And then people would come in and go, no, which ad are you talking about? People didn't even know we had all these ads in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Right. It was just crazy how that worked.
Well, and I mean, you just got me on one. I just learned something. Should we be doing that with our online advertising?
Why wouldn't we?
Today, I'm going to print mine out and I'm going to put them up because we do shop online. We do, because we do a lot of advertising online. We look at them every single month. We don't print, because here's the other thing. Did it change?
Oh my gosh. I mean,
if you're doing marketing correctly, what you're strategy at the beginning of the month, hopefully either worked and you're staying the same,
or it didn't and you changed.
And you changed.
Yes. We're going to print those today?
I'm changing that today.
Oh my gosh. I'm glad we're doing this
Yeah.
episode.
The next one, I remember you were probably in this meeting because we were together at this point. Cable advertising. We were spending so much money on cable. And I'm like, I got to do it again.
Who's watching? Well, that
cable?
channel, HGTV, at 4:00 on Tuesday.
I mean, and it's,
I know.
And again, but it's, the whole goal is the newspaper. It went from being the number one source, the most expensive, you spent the bulk of your advertising, to now it's a very small portion of it, right? Same thing with cable. We still advertise with cable. It's just depending on the audience you're trying to reach. Now you got to change the stations. Now you got to move from news. And how many times do you hear somebody say, I just cannot watch the news anymore, right? The generations are changing. They're getting their news from different places than they used to get it from. It's not always a big broadcast. So, and now, again, how you watch your TV is different in every household. Like, do you have a TV subscription?
Right.
Like, do you have every channel?
No. And it's funny you're saying this, and I'm going to give you an example. Whenever you do advertising, you need to tell who what you're going to be doing. Whole store.
Yeah.
You're not just telling your sales.
Sorry.
That's okay. You're telling your whole store.
Yeah.
You're not just telling, the salespeople, I'm going to do $199 and this on the red ones. You're telling your whole store, hey, everybody. And then you do what? You show it to them.
Yeah.
Here's the ad we're going to be running. I'll never forget this. This was a long time ago at this point. Well, not that long ago, but it was years ago at this point. I remember arguing the same thing. Guys, what are we doing spending that amount of money on television that you're hoping? Oh, no, because they all tell you how many viewers they have.
Yes.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
What they're not telling you is they fast forward the commercials.
Yeah.
So they watch your channel, but they're not watching your commercials.
Yeah.
My wife pays not to watch commercials.
Yes.
And I love her for that because I hate them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm not
the
kidding.
fast forward button.
Right, exactly. But I'll never forget. I'm going to give you this example.
Yeah.
I remember asking in a meeting. I knew what was coming on. I knew what our marketing team was going to have on television.
Yeah.
And I didn't say anything. And on the Monday morning meeting you're referring to, at actually 9 o'clock, because it was the sales and we had everybody in the room, I said, "Who saw our ad?"
Yeah.
And there were 3 people that raised their hand.
Yeah.
You know how many people were in that meeting? A lot. And I went, uh-oh.
Yeah.
This is where I didn't tell everybody on purpose because I didn't want everybody to try to find it. I wanted to see who saw it.
Yeah.
And if there's only 3 people, that times that by your community, right?
Well, and I think this goes back to the saying, it's not how many people you marketed to, it's how many people you didn't market to. Because again,
Here we go again.
I know. And it just, I think that exercise, that was the thing that frustrated me the most is, okay, so we're getting to people, but are we getting to the right people? Are we advertising it in the right places? And it's my favorite part about our internship program. Every year it happens to me. It reminds me I'm the old guy in the room because how do you shop for cars? It's still changing. It's never going to stop.
I know.
It is amazing to me.
I know.
I remember the first batch, YouTube.
And I went, what's that?
Okay. Well, and luckily I knew that, YouTube at that time was the second largest search engine. And you don't think of YouTube as a search engine, but now it is very heavily on social media. YouTube is still up there. It's still towards the top, but they don't go to the third-party websites. They're taking all of your money. I'm just going to throw it out. Some do, but again, same thing. If your budget on the third-party websites is this big and they're not there shopping, you're only getting that part of the market. And again, it's no different than when we were a newspaper. It was dying, but we owned it. Everybody
100%.
else got out of it. We were the only ones in it. So it was a good spend because you still got to look at your return on your investment and you got to make sure that I'm getting out of it what I'm putting into it. But if there's still a lot of you competing for a small market, then it's not a good spend. And just challenge your advertising thinking, challenge your vendors, make sure that you're getting the most out of them because again, impressions and everything, those are the metrics that we use. But again, impressions are just that.
100%. I always think of, whenever I think advertising or marketing, I think hunting.
Yeah.
That's just, for whatever reason, that's what pops into my brain.
Oh, we're going to talk about this.
I love hunting. Hunting, right? Or am I going to use a shotgun or a rifle? How am I hunting? Am I just trying to shoot out there and hope somebody sees what I'm talking about?
Okay.
Or am I going to use a rifle and go, I know exactly who I'm looking for.
Okay.
I'm looking at all. I know what you're going to say.
I'm going to go there.
Go
I
ahead.
have to. I thought you were talking about hunting advertising, like deer blinds and that kind of stuff.
Am I a hunter? Do you know me? When's the last time I told you I was hunting? When I was a puppy, yes.
Yeah.
When I was a puppy, I used to go, acted like I was anyways.
Well,
right?
I kind of did that with my kids. Now,
Yeah.
now we're going to get way off topic. But no, that's...
Yeah, no,
All
I'm
right,
talking.
anyway.
No, it's okay. I'm talking about how do we hunt, right? How do we really narrow down? Okay, if I'm going to spend money, I want to know that where I'm spending my money, people I hope I'm going to hit are actually being hit, and they're getting the information I want them to get.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I look at do we have tools that show us, tell us, teach us? Okay, here's where your people are buying from. If you look at a map, here's where my customers are coming from. Yeah. Can you then take your marketing and advertising spend and say, okay, I'm going to focus on that area? Or do you go, no, I already dominate that area. I want to start focusing on that area because I don't have customers over there, or my competitor is over there. Or do I say, I'm going to not mess with that. He owns that market. I'm going to stay home over here where I'm already at and just really talk to my people. All these things come into play when you talk about marketing and advertising. And I'm not going to tell you one way's right and another way's wrong. I believe that your area, you may need to market different than mine. Yeah. We have stores on one side of the state. We're in a state.
Yes.
We have stores on one side of the state that might need to use one vehicle to advertise versus another, or talk about a subprime market versus a prime market. I don't know. You might use different tools or advertise it a little differently, but doggone it, if you're not looking, having strategy meetings about it and talking about it and figuring it out, you're in trouble.
Yeah. And so I think the biggest part of that is getting the data. So marketing is 100% a factual based business. And I think too often, well, did it work? And some people use feelings and some people use facts. And that's
Very true.
probably
Yeah.
the biggest part and the biggest shift is when we started using transaction data. Um, so there's two ways to do this. So you can either use the transaction data that you have and just compare to who you're selling to now.
Yeah.
Because again, if you're changing your marketing,
Can you use this
yeah, like
example?
we don't sell that many cars there.
Like, no way. Not buying that. Yeah.
Impossible. But it was far enough away. And the funny thing is, good news, because I'm glad that the manufacturer doesn't know that or doesn't look into it because they would put another dealership over there.
Yeah.
We're
Please
only,
don't.
yeah, we're only pulling that much traffic out of there because they don't have a local resource there. So, which is funny, the luxury market that I came out of, that manufacturer just added another point
Did they?
because
Because of that?
they found it. They
Ugh.
went, wow, those people are driving over 30 minutes to get to a location and there's that many sales there? Absolutely not. We're going to
New
put a
building.
dealership there. I went, so I, called them and was joking around. I'm like, man, you guys, that's going to be a tough one because
Yes.
that one specific dealership pulls a lot out of that market.
Yes.
So it's going to make it very interesting. But same thing, if you're not going to use your own data, then you're going to have to go out and buy it. And it is kind of expensive. And holy, there is a lot of information in there. I mean,
You get lost.
yes, you can break down like our manufacturer. They give us the ability to pull a lot of this information. Again, it's our information. If I want to go look at demographics and different areas and stuff like that,
Sure.
they give me that. I can't see other people's sales though. That's where you've got to go to a third party. I don't like spending money with third parties unless you get the value out of it. This is one where if you're going to spend money that you're not spending right now, it's getting that third party data. Who's buying what?
Yeah.
What do they look like? What do they like? Where do they live? What are they buying? What are the transactions in your area? And make sure that you then start looking at your advertising that way too. And if you can't get it, check into your vendors. Your vendors may be able to give that information. If they're selling you advertising, they're not making a good decision unless they have this information. I promise you, they have it. They will give it to you. You just got to ask for it.
100% agree with you. You have specifically, anyways, you have brought up an acronym in several episodes, and you've referenced, you've said what it's about ROI.
Yeah.
You talk about ROI, I think even in the last episode, or maybe it was 2 episodes, I don't remember, but you talk about ROI. That term to be, or acronym to me, is so important. It's not funny. If you don't have the return on investment of each of your advertising sources that you expect or need or want, and we can argue about what that return is, you know what mine's going to be. It's 5 times because you need a 20% net to gross, and we can dive into that later. But if you don't know what it is, you're probably in trouble. In other words, I'll give you an example. How much ROI does your last billboard have that you did? You have no idea. No idea. How many people came and said, hey, whew, I'm glad you had that billboard.
Yeah.
I didn't know you existed, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Versus if you do one that worked when you specifically marketed that somebody brings something tangible to you, if it worked or not. If somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm talking about service, for instance. Hey, I have this 20% off for whatever service I have. You know how to track that ROI.
Yeah.
If you can't track it, I'm not sure you should be doing that.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let's go down that.
Let's argue.
But this is yours. Weren't you the one that did the last billboard though?
No. Gosh, it had to be years ago, did I?
I remember it was a big problem because our store, or um, our owners, we bought a billboard and they're like, let me know how that goes. Because again, now let's just go down this road.
Okay.
Advertising done wrong does not work.
That's true.
So a billboard with a terrible message is not going to work. And I will give them credit when we did the last billboard is that it did work, but it was hard to track. So let's talk about it. If I'm going to track a billboard, what are the things that I can do to track my sales from the billboard? Why is this so funny?
I don't know why it's funny.
Oh my
because
God.
I'm gonna, well, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even want to go down that
Yeah.
route. I can tell you this. I will never have another billboard. Okay.
I think it's the amount of harassment that we had to have.
It
A
was bad.
billboard, they pull it up, it's up for a month. And if you buy a billboard, they don't take it down until the next one goes up. So
I know.
if they have a bad salesperson, you could have paid for 1 month and it'll
Still
stay
up.
there for a while.
Yes, absolutely.
And then it didn't work. You looked at your ROI, and then everybody's going, why are you still spending money? I'm not spending anything on it. They just haven't put a new billboard up
they haven't
yet.
taken it down.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know why we just swirled so bad on a
No.
billboard.
Because it's hilarious. But
Yeah.
okay, we're gonna track sales off of a billboard.
Okay.
What would we do?
Your example. I don't know where your head's at.
So there's a couple of different things that you can do. And this is why you have to be careful with marketing. So we have tracking numbers. So you can put 1-800 buy me,
I see.
and then every phone call that comes in, that's how many people called. You can track it, see if those turn into sales.
Sure.
To your point, that coupon that you physically bring in, you've got to run a different special. So, mention this billboard for this special. It must be different from all of your other specials. So extra 500 on your trade-in, matching down payments, which you can't do. It's the red ones are $199 a month, whatever it might be.
Yep.
That's the easiest way. But the most important part about marketing is you do have to track it.
Yep.
And let's say that you're using certain ones, you need to have in your sales process somewhere where you're checking off a box that says, how did you hear about us? How did you find out?
Yeah.
How did you find the special? Because if you just let the data work on its own, it'll be fairly accurate. It just won't be precise because the billboard may have sent them to the website and then they may have just showed up. So which one was most impactful? Which one started the conversation? And the one that the customer says is the one that's the most important because no customer, well, I would say a very small to no number customer will come in and just buy a car.
Yeah.
A friend told him, a billboard told him, something sparked it, and then it happened.
But I'm gonna go down this road.
Let's go.
So I agree with you. Whatever the customer said, 100%.
Yeah.
So you track them then, right? What every customer says?
Yeah.
Right. And where do you put that information? So I'm just going to throw this out there. We've done this many times in the past.
Yeah.
What bothers me is it's great when you're talking about it with your sales staff or with your service staff or with your parts staff. But what ends up happening is they all start funneling to whatever's easier to say. Yep, drive by, referral. Yeah. They're almost all the same. My point is that in today's world, I truly believe that everything's moving digital. Right. And what I mean by that is it can be digital on television. It can be digital on your phone and your tablet, whatever. Everything's moving that way right now. That doesn't mean I'm going to be right a month from now. Things are changing so fast, it's not funny. But right now, man, people are like all these different things that pop up on my phone. I'm like, how did you know I was looking for a refrigerator?
Yeah.
It heard me. Yeah. And it's given me, feedback on my advertising whenever I go to social media. It's almost creepy.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go the opposite direction real quick. And you don't have to say it out loud, but name a lawyer and tell me if it's because they were on a billboard.
You told me not to answer that question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can tell you this, there's several of them. I think there's like 3 big ones where we are.
Yeah.
And I see them everywhere.
Yes.
And I mean everywhere.
Yeah.
When television, when I accidentally see an advertisement.
Yeah.
Right. Or a commercial.
Yes.
Right. Any place I go on a billboard.
Yeah.
Any place on my phone, I do run into the big 3.
Yeah.
Is that what you were saying?
Like, I wouldn't spend money on billboards. But then when you look at these lawyers, like,
They have all the billboards.
the only lawyers that I can name are the ones that I see on the billboard.
Right. Yeah.
And my boys, they point them out. They're fascinated. They're like, oh, look at that. That one's got a truck on it. And I'm like,
There's a certain guy that
of
just
course.
does trucks.
Yeah, that only does trucks. So
Yes.
I just think it's
Yeah, we can
interesting.
argue. That's why we're arguing.
But you do have to ask. And there's a couple different ways. You can do a piece of paper, and then you gotta have somebody manually count them. If you've got one of those digital tools, then maybe it's a button that you can click. Like, you were bringing up the CRM, the human error piece of it. If the salesperson is asking in the recording, absolutely. But if you have somebody asking the customer and they have to click a button or they have to write on a piece of paper, I think that's got a better chance of working.
I agree with you. What's the difference between advertising, marketing, and branding?
Right.
Right. I truly believe that when you start going down the billboard route, it's branding.
Yeah.
Right. You're not going to put your monthly special up there knowing that it could change tomorrow. So you're branding yourself. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring this example up. Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm.
How many years did you go where you couldn't go anywhere without seeing something about Coca-Cola?
Yeah.
The television, the radio, the newspaper, wherever you were, the park bench had Coca-Cola. Now what do you see? Do you see Coca-Cola everywhere? No, they branded themselves so hard that they could lay off a little bit because they put their brand out there. They are who you know as pop or soda. You think Coke.
Right.
That's the power of branding. And I think that's a little bit different than marketing or advertising.
Well, and they do affect each other. So actually, listen, if any of you are marketing companies that sell me currently or want to sell me in the future, I'll give you a tip. I think my favorite activity to do when I'm trying out a new vendor is ask them, well, how much should we spend with you? I'm a big dealership. I got a giant checkbook.
Yeah.
How much should I spend?
Sure.
And you always get one of two. You get they're a big one. I'm going all the way in, right? There's an NADA statistic. There's a statistic from every place. How much should you spend per car on advertising? And boy,
that number changes every year.
Well, the size, the brands that you're selling, how long have you been in business, right? That number changes, but there is an average, so to speak. And you can tell the ones that don't know who you are or didn't do the research or just want to make the most amount of money. Those are always the high quotes.
Of course.
They're like, oh, we're not gonna be doing business.
Right. Lost.
No need to go any further. And then there's the ones that tailor the marketing for you. I was just working with a marketing vendor, and the budget came in huge. And he said, well, how much are you spending per car? I said, you know what? How much do you think I should spend per car? And his number was triple what we spent.
Of course.
Triple. And I said, okay, let's just go down this road. I just want to understand more. Did you pick that number because that's what it should be, or what you think I'm spending, or what you would advise me to spend? Let's imagine you run the dealership. How much would you spend?
Sure.
And he goes, well, no, that's what you should be. You want to be number one? That's what you should be spending. I am number one.
Yeah.
This is what I'm spending.
Right.
And I said, okay, now you've missed branding versus marketing.
Now he doesn't know who you are either.
Correct. So branding versus marketing, we're already in the community. And I spend a lot in grassroots, so I don't spend a lot in other places, because it's more important for me to be connected to the community, to be involved, to be giving back, to be supporting the community. Again, if we get some car sales out of it, great. But I just want to hear my company. I want to see my people in my community.
Yes.
So we spend more in the community than we do trying to find other communities. And in the other pieces, I try to retain my customers. So I spend more money retaining my customers than I do trying to find new customers. And that's where the marketing and the advertising, branding reminds people that you're there. It's okay. Yes, I see them in the community. Yes, that's where I bought my last car. Oh yes, they go to my school. They go to my church. Whatever it might be. Versus, the marketing is trying to go out and find those new customers and spending money on new hunting for the rifle, not a shotgun.
Yes.
So that's kind of my interpretation, but also kind of how I like
Yeah.
to negotiate and find new.
You know, you're going down a road right now. So I was about to go somewhere else, but then you just pivoted me
Yeah.
or squirreled me. But I think your retention specifically, yours, is so
Mhm.
high because of what you just said. I have the privilege of actually living in the community where you work.
Yep.
And when I'm in the community on Saturdays and Sundays and in the evenings, man, everybody talks about your location
Yeah.
because you focusing on retention. You're talking to the people that have gotten you to where you are today. You're saying, "Hey, we love you. You're a family member. We need you. I appreciate you. I need you back." And you're talking to those people. It's like some things that you'll like the employees, right,
Yeah.
of a certain whatever manufacturer it is. So you're giving people that don't work here a bigger incentive than you give me,
Mhm.
the guy that's pouring in and I love you and I work for you. But what you do specifically is you really, really, really treat your family members or your customer database so wonderful, like with white gloves. You're in the community, you're giving back, you're having events, you're downtown,
Yeah.
you're giving to people in need. You're not even bragging or talking about it. You're just doing it and
Yeah.
people appreciate you. And I think that's what you're talking about or going down that road.
Yeah. Being in your community, living in your community, spending money in your community. I
Yeah.
mean, my son's teacher is the next door neighbor of our owner. And again, could live anywhere, right? I mean, and I think that's a big part of it. You're the general manager, you're the manager. I mean, you want to be close to work so that your commute time's down, but
Sure.
also, it's hard to relate to people when you're not part of that community either. Like what's the most important part,
Yeah.
right? I'm a huge hockey fan. And again, the number 2 team in the state is in our backyard for high school. So knowing, who's playing,
Yeah.
knowing that, they're at the top and unfortunately they're going to have the chance to get knocked out early on because they changed
Sure.
how the schools were divided up again. And it just those are the kinds of things. You eat there, you live there, you worship there, you play sports there.
Yes.
That's just who you are. It's a big part, especially for us. We're a large, small town. And there's
That was
you're
an oxymoron.
yeah, it's
For a large, small town. Got
it
it.
is. It's because I came from a very small town. My graduating class was 110 people. The high school here has like 2,000 people.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me, but it is still a small community. We still have, farms and we still have acres that
Yeah.
people live on. It's amazing. It's just it covers a larger area
Yes, for
is
sure.
is why it's a small, large town. But, the key is just being a part of it
Mm.
because those are the things that matter to those people. And once you know what makes them tick, it also helps you know what's most important, right? That's why we sell a
Absolutely.
bunch of trucks because 'cause we're a large, small town.
Yep.
So,
Yep. No, I agree with I think we beat that horse pretty good
yeah.
because if you're not doing that, you better be. And I want to pivot back to where I was going to go before.
Mhm.
And this is one of my hot buttons, and I don't even know if it's a real word, but I use the word co-opable. Are you
Yes.
co-opable, right?
Yeah.
So, and we don't have to really super deep dive into this, but I think it's important that the people you are going to be doing business with in marketing and advertising or even branding, are they do they have manufacturer funds,
Yeah.
IMR funds, whatever your term is
Yeah.
for your manufacturer? Do they have money available to offset your advertising and marketing expense? And that's what's called co-op typically.
Yes.
And are the or excuse me, the people that you're talking to involved in that? Are you able to use your funds to offset your expense?
Well, and, so this is a tough one, and if we should argue about this one or not, because marketer A is co-opable. Marketer B is not co-opable. Which one do you go with?
Depends on, it depends. I don't think I could make this decision just
Okay,
based on
good.
that, but I would tell you this, if B is non-co-opable,
Yeah.
but I believe they have a better product, I believe that they're gonna reach more people and be more impactful to the people I'm rifle hunting. I believe that I need to get with them to say, "Okay, what can we do to make the expense make sense to me?" Or can you be co-opable?
Yeah.
Can you get with a factory? Can you urge this vendor to say, hey, OEM, we need to be co-opable or they're not going to use it? Can they?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I guess I can't answer that question
Okay.
unless I know more details.
I was hoping that you were going to say, yes, absolutely, because that's one of my bigger pet peeves is just because it's co-opable doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do and doesn't mean that that's why you should just be spending the money on it. Because again, for me with advertising, I'm finding that the ones that are co-opable, they run very strict, very narrow-minded, focused. This is what works. This doesn't get us in trouble. This is the conservative, vanilla. This is what works.
Sure.
And some of them are better than
Yeah.
others. Some are more creative.
You're
And
generalizing.
very, very generalized. Versus the ones that aren't are typically a little bit smaller. They're a little more boutique, and the cool part is we've got to ride both sides of it.
Yeah.
To your point, we've asked vendors to become co-opable, so we got that small, personalized feel.
Is that a word?
I don't know.
I
It's
need to
got to
look
be
it
a
up.
word.
Co-opable.
It's got to be. Well, we're
It
saying
sounds really.
right?
If not, we're adding it.
We're adding it.
Yes.
We're going to submit it to
You
the
know, my
dictionary.
girls think that I have my own language sometimes.
No, but you do.
Thanks.
You do.
Thanks.
There are words. If you want to know what they are, just message us or comment. We'll
Right.
find them.
Yep.
But no, so that's kind of the biggest one, because until there's very good companies that aren't co-opable yet that you can go out that may fit. Because again, one of the things we were going to talk about was, do you want AI in your advertising or not? And AI
Topic.
AI is great for analytics, but like an SEO, like a search engine optimization company that you're bringing in,
Mhm.
a lot of them are using AI because it's easier. But then you look at the algorithms and you realize that when they catch you using AI, they know that it's not personalized information. So like my SEO
Very true.
company, am absolutely in love with it. As I start to go around and start to shop for different marketing, no, you can't have my SEO. They do an awesome job, but they have a staff of PhDs
Mhm.
that you give them the topics, they write them all out. They're handwritten. They're awesome. They're not written
Yeah.
by AI. And then, I mean, we have had a huge takeoff from there. So, I mean, AI, you may want it, you may not. You definitely want to ask, because if you don't want AI, you need to know that it is or is not in there. If you want AI, the analytics side of it, awesome. Better than humans in some aspects. They're also computers, so they also forget the human side of it. So, you got to
Both.
fact check it, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we could probably talk for about 3 or 4 hours about marketing and advertising and budgets and how much per cars. And by the way, should we do marketing and advertising at our body shop?
Mhm.
How about the parts department?
Yeah.
Do we ever? That's the bad way to say that. But most of the time when we think marketing and advertising, we think of which 2 departments?
Right. Yeah.
New and used cars.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's other departments. And
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of people miss things. Business on the table are not talking to the right people in the other departments because they go, oh yeah, we got to do service. Send out a mailer.
Yeah.
So you can say you did it. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I think that there's a lot of episodes we could actually have on marketing and advertising. I'd be curious if we kind of scratch the surface on several pieces, but I would be curious to all the listeners. What parts of marketing and advertising or even branding or the budgets for them would you like to see more of? Would you like us to go farther into? And we can do that in future episodes.
For sure. Because it's, but marketing is a tough one. And a lot of people just don't have experience with it. So again, repeating myself from earlier in the episode, but if you're not comfortable with marketing, get comfortable with it.
Yeah.
If you're not a part of it, become a part of it, because it's a huge piece, and it's like anything else. My biggest struggle with my marketing right now is I'm with car advertisers and they love advertising cars. They are horrible at fixed advertising.
Mm-hmm.
So
My point.
yes, the accessories market, the third party accessory companies own the
Gonna say that.
accessories market. The OEM, the dealerships, they don't. You go and buy your floor mat. Maybe you buy your floor mats from the dealership. But do you buy your tow hook cover from us? Do you buy your hitch ball from us? You know, people have gotten so trained to go other places. When we sell our parts, now we do sell aftermarkets too. So I don't want to say that there's anything bad about aftermarkets, but the OEM has a lot of really nice
That are
eh,
warranted.
that are warranties, accessories, good. Same like the electric vehicles. You can go buy the adapter for ours with the major electric chargers,
Yes.
or you can go buy a knockoff version of it. And I will tell we've had a ton of problems. If you're not buying the OEM adapter for
Great
your
point.
EV vehicles, that has been the biggest difference I've noticed. Like, again, floor mats and so forth, they've gotten better over the years, but you would only buy OEM because they just weren't right. And then the technology came out. Now you only really buy floor mats from the third party company. In fact, we buy them as OEMs to put in our cars now because they've gotten so good. But when it comes to the EV adapters for charging your vehicles, I I wouldn't even try it. I wouldn't even test it. That's
Yeah.
one thing that I would never recommend a third party for somebody because we've seen so many issues
Yeah.
already.
So I think this is a perfect spot to take a poll.
Yes.
Who squirrels worse, Andrew Ruck or Paul Jordan? We're talking about marketing, advertising, and branding. He's talking about your adapter for your EV. So what I would like you to do, I'm just kidding.
That's called leading the way.
I'm
We are gonna do this poll, but I'm not even gonna give you a sales pitch because I think I won the last poll too. So
What was the last poll?
how whether you want pricing or not. Pricing or not. So, but this
with
one,
internet leads?
yes.
Yes.
I'm not even gonna do a sales pitch. One of us scrolls more than the other. You
Okay.
tell us.
Yeah, because anyways, I won't give my opinion. I love this episode.
Yes.
We literally
It
said
did bounce a lot.
we did, and I do too.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know.
Yes.
We literally said right before what do you want to talk about? And you said marketing and advertising. I said, oh, that's why I love this show.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being because I love just talking about the automotive business, and I believe that most people, like when you get in a room, when you go to a function,
Yeah.
when you go sit at LMA meeting and you're sitting with like people, even from other dealerships, it's fun to talk about what we do because every day we talk about marketing and advertising in our own walls. When you start talking about marketing and advertising with other people and other, in your surrounding areas, even with your own dealer group, it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
And that's why I think marketing and advertising is so fun. Because by the way, next month, we might talk about everything different than we did this month.
For sure.
It changes that often.
Yeah.
Maybe not every month, but you know what I mean. It's quick.
Well, and just because I got to bring it up because it's one last thought that I have. I promise it's my last thought. But I'm a salesperson. I'm a service advisor. The dealership spends money and that's great, but I want to market myself. How do I market myself as an individual selling cars or being an advisor in service or
Yeah.
an estimator in a body shop?
You want my answer to that?
Yeah.
Boy, I got several, but I'm gonna give this to you because it means a lot to. I'm glad you just asked me that question. Actually, I just did this in the new hire training that we had. Gotta be in your communities. You gotta be involved. We talked about our grassroots being in the communities.
Mhm.
That's how you market yourself. I'll give you an example. My children played sports. My daughter's sports was dance. Every mother and father in the dance studio purchased their vehicle from me. They all had a plate frame for the dealership that I work for on the back of their vehicles. My son played soccer. Another son ran track. All those parents and E&I groups, be in your community, your church, I think you even brought it up earlier, where you worship.
Yeah.
Make sure your church members know, hey, this is what I do. And I like it and I enjoy it. It's the second biggest purchase that most people make, an automobile. It's okay to say, hey, this is what I do. My wife, she drives her nuts. We'll be having dinner somewhere or lunch somewhere or whatever it is. And with the waitress, I'm like, hey, you did an awesome job for us. You'd be great selling cars.
Yeah.
You'd be great in our office.
Yeah.
You'd be great in our service department. And I give them my business card. My wife's like, oh my gosh, we're out to dinner.
Again?
I know, but I just like talking about what I do. I'm excited about I like who I work for. I like what I do. I enjoy it every day. I smile when I'm out there. Why not talk about it in your community?
Yeah.
That's how you market yourself.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yes. And there's a lot of other things. Again, as we talk about what used to be and what is today. I mean, when I got in, people would send calendars to their customers.
Yes.
They'd send a magnet to their customers. They'd send them a birthday card. They'd send them a Happy 4th of July card.
Yes.
They would do postcards. They would pens with their names on them. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you can do like that.
Yeah.
And then when I think of it in this modern day and age, it's social media. Imagine being able to talk to every single one of your customers every couple of days.
Can you imagine?
Every time you sell a car, take a picture of them, post it on your social media, tag them in it, friend them, put engaging stuff on there. If all of your customers struggle pairing their garage door opener with their garage, put a little video on there as a little reminder. Now the cars do it for themselves most of the time, but daylight savings time, how do I change the time? You can do little videos on there.
Their radio station.
Instead of sending the Happy 4th of July cards, you can make a Happy 4th of July post to all of your customers.
Yes.
You can connect with them. You can still follow up with them. You can let them know what you're doing. It can be business only, or if you're somebody that loves to talk about your kids and your animals and what you do on the weekends, you can put in the personal stuff. Hey, my son won
Little League championship.
Yeah, Little League
whatever
championship.
It is. Yeah.
Got all A's in school, or grew a foot this year, whatever it might be. That personalized approach, it's amazing how lucky we are to have social media. Social media is a gigantic piece of that marketing puzzle.
How much does it cost?
Free.
Be darned. Right.
Time.
Oh
the
my
only
God.
thing it costs is time.
Yeah.
And that's, make the investment, because again, especially when you're in a large, small town, everybody's connected. We all go to the same restaurants. We all go to the same stores, all running into each other. It's fun. Hey, I saw that you just bought a new house. And then you go, oh yeah, we're friends on such and such. That's really cool.
It all brings it back together.
Yeah. So there's stuff you can do. Again, you're the general manager. You make all the decisions, or you have a marketing team. You have a marketing team, go get involved. You don't have to be. It's going to take time. You're a sales manager. If your GM or your marketing team is doing your advertising, you're allowed to go to those meetings. You're allowed to ask questions.
Yes.
Be a part of it. You're a salesperson. You want to advertise in the newspaper. Great. Ask. It's a lot cheaper than it used to be.
Yes.
So you're going to be able, you're going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But again, those are the kinds of things that you can do as an individual.
Great episode.
Love it. So remember, if you like what you've heard, please follow and share and leave us your thoughts for future episodes. But most importantly, remember to like and share everything that you can. Give us the feedback.
Yeah.
And get ready for the Paul poll.
That I'll win, by the way.
That'll
I keep hearing everybody say, yo, I listen to your show. I love your show. I love your show. Follow. If you follow, we're going to have some extra things that you get for following.
Yep.
Okay. It's a little teaser.
Love it.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good one. Whoa.